Welcome, everyone. I am Honourable Janis Johnson, Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba, and I am honoured to be reading this citation today. The highest honour the Senate of a university can confirm on an individual is an honorary doctorate. At the University of Manitoba, the criteria includes distinguished achievement in scholarship, the arts, or public service. Our honorary graduate this afternoon is the Honourable Janis Guðrún Johnson. Honor, loyalty, tenacity, the courage to venture where few have gone before. These are qualities we often ascribe to the earliest Icelanders who made the journey to Manitoba. And we can say the same of the Honourable Janis Guðrún Johnson, who shares her ancestors' strength of spirit. She is well known as one of the longest-serving Conservative members of the Canadian Senate, but the value of her public service cannot be measured in years alone. The depth and range of her commitment are what make her contributions remarkable. Her impact can be felt in so many different areas across this nation, from arts and culture to international trade. She was born with a strong political pedigree as the eldest daughter of the Honourable George Johnson, the 20th Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba. She was destined to become an activist and had an independent streak. She came of age at a time when young people were encouraged to ask not what their country could do for them, but what they could do for their country. It was a sentiment she embraced. Believing public service to be among the most honorable of professions, she majored in political science at the University of Manitoba. She became a student leader, serving as vice president in the student union. After graduation, she took on the role of political advisor on the provincial and national stage. The Honourable Janis Johnson is a lifelong feminist, having grown up in a family where gender never stood in the way of aspiration. When she returned from Eastern Canada in the late 70s, a single working mother, she helped design a program here at the University of Manitoba for women wanting to upgrade their skills and make a successful return to the workplace. She would later become the first woman appointed to the board at CN and lead the way for the first on-site daycare within a Crown corporation in Canada. She also made it her mission to get more women involved in politics. She established the first Women's Progressive Conservative Caucus in this city. It became the first female national director of the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada. In 1990, she was appointed to the upper chamber. For the next 26 years, she served on or chaired more than a dozen Senate committees. She used her voice to protect a woman's right to choose, to help preserve the water quality of our lakes, and to ensure Canadians were heard during Canada-US discussions. Here in Manitoba, she has been a tireless volunteer. Through her involvement with the Manitoba Special Olympics, she was on the founding board, as well as arts organizations like the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and advocacy groups for women's health. For the Honourable Janis Johnson, the most personal of her volunteer endeavours is undoubtedly the Gimli Film Festival. She founded the festival nearly 2 decades ago to mark what was the 1,000-year anniversary of the Vikings' arrival in Canada. Every summer, more than 10,000 people make the pilgrimage to Gimli for what is now one of Western Canada's largest international film festivals. She also works to support many heritage initiatives through her involvement with the University of Manitoba's Department of Icelandic Studies. And she is one of the few Canadians to receive the Order of Falcon from the Government of Iceland. Just like her ancestors who came before, she is proud of her heritage, loyal to her community, and always on the lookout for the next adventure. Mr. Chancellor, it is my honor for me to ask on behalf of the Senate of the University of Manitoba that you confer on the Honourable Janis Guðrún Johnson the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chancellor of this university, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges thereto appertaining. Congratulations, Dr. Johnson.
Your Honor, President Bernard, Chancellor Sector, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, graduates. This is a memorable day for you and your families. I am so glad to be with you and deeply grateful for the honor that has been bestowed upon me. We have a very wonderful crowd today to celebrate you all. You are graduating from a fine university that has a long history of excellence and of distinguishing itself in every faculty for generations. It has embraced change, innovation, and diversity. The National Center for Truth and Reconciliation is the latest example of this and was the cornerstone of the university's $500 million front and center comprehensive fundraising campaign. President Bernard, you are to be commended for your efforts to have the center established at our university. I applaud all who have been involved in ensuring that the long journey of reconciliation continues, as it means so much to the future of our province and our country. Graduates, I worked in the Indigenous issues in my Senate career, actually 15 years on the Senate Aboriginal Peoples Committee, so it touches me deeply that our university is leading the way to educate and encourage all Canadians to embrace this history. You know, this is what I love about the University of Manitoba, my alma mater. Here we are in the middle of the Canadian prairie, always ready to just do it. Like Manitoba itself, we are determined to be as good as we can be and persevere no matter what. And that includes laughing off the national slurs about our cold weather and our mosquitoes. So they forget that we have the best people with the strength and character to live with the elements and thrive. For we have nature all around and an enviable and affordable quality of life that we are striving to achieve for all who live here. Graduates, when you look at what your fellow students around the world contend with, including our closest neighbor, the United States, we know we have the edge. The United States has had 57 times as many school shootings as all other major industrial nations combined in the last 9 years. Not since the late 60s, when I was a student. We have, that was so long ago, 50 years, you guys. we have seen protests like the one led by the students in the March for Life. Teenagers who want things to change, as we did in the most turbulent time in our history, 1968. But change takes challenging the status quo and not being afraid to do so. And years ago, our UMSU leaders at the University of Manitoba did affect change, and I know, because I was one of them, but it was such a credit to our university that we worked our differences out without violence or anything close to it. We also learned much about negotiating peaceful solutions with the administration as we fought for our rights. I grew up in Gimli, and I learned about challenging the status quo. For in our close Icelandic community of the time, we were encouraged to speak up and always be independent thinkers. One could say it was the Viking blood we inherited from our ancestors, and history tells us that the Vikings were a rebellious lot. But a large part of our drive was the immigrant experience of our grandparents and our great-grandparents, who left Iceland for a better life after years of devastating volcanic eruptions covered their farmlands. You know, they brought with them what they could carry in their beloved trunks, which were weighed down by books, and no home was without a library, and in Iceland it was the same, and it is true today. Graduates, education was and is the most important thing to all of us and to them. And within years of settling in Winnipeg, they had their own school, their own newspaper, very bold folks, church, old folks' home, and the Weevil Cafe. Where, as the story goes, artist Charlie Thorson fell in love with a beautiful dark-haired Icelandic waitress who became the face of Snow White when Thorson went to work at the Disney Studios in Los Angeles. So as well, along the Lake Winnipeg settlements, the Icelanders were learning to fish, taught by our indigenous fishers. Without our native peoples, many early immigrants would not have survived, and we do well to remember that debt. Again, here comes my University of Manitoba. In 1952, established the first Icelandic department outside of Iceland, working hand in hand with the Icelandic community, and it flourishes to this day. Graduates, I share this part of my Icelandic background and the Icelandic experience because stories like these weave the fabric of this great country. And you have stories, and many of you also come from families who came to Canada seeking a better life. But the only way we will continue to have better lives here is to stay engaged in the democratic process that guards and protects us. My career has spanned decades in public service, and it has not been easy. It's not been smooth sailing all the way. I've had terrible failures and ups and downs and successes too, of course. But all throughout, I've always tried to stay true to my values and to do my best to be dutiful and serve my country. It may sound old-fashioned, but it's our collective duty and responsibility to engage in shaping the future of this great land. Forsaking involvement would be tantamount to forsaking our liberal democracy and the memory of the millions who've given their very lives to protect its values. So together, graduates, today and going forward, we must honor the sacrifices of those who came to this country before us and protect the future of those to follow by being involved in the political process. In so doing, we protect the many freedoms we enjoy in our Canadian democracy. I can't leave you this afternoon without some words from one of my heroes, the eminent Sir Winston Churchill. And to quote, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." Thank you so much for sharing your day with me. I hope your afternoon is wonderful.